This episode is brought to you by DistroKid. Hey everyone, today's guests, yes, guests plural, are guitarist vocalist Ryan Hahn and lead vocalist and guitarist Taylor Rice from the Orange County, California indie rock band Local Natives. Together we pull back the curtains and discuss the writing, recording, and inspiration behind the fan favorite single, When Am I Gonna Lose You, taken from their 2019 album, Violet Street. Taylor said he wrote the song about his now wife, a song that he and the band, along with producer Shawn Everett, labored over. We have heard a lot of guests here on Chris DeMakes a Podcast say that their biggest song was written super quickly. Well, not this one. When Am I Gonna Lose You started off as a ballad and quickly started to change shape, much to the initial chagrin of Taylor. He did say, though, that it wasn't very long before he opened up to speeding it up and changing it around, that it started to resemble the track we now know. A track that Shawn and the band did 57 mixes of. Crazy. Usually when you cook a song that long, it ends up just sitting there on the burner. But not this tune. And it was great to hear how collaborative the band is, with Ryan coming in at the 11th hour to complete the bridge lyric about his singer's wife, and Taylor being completely cool with it. I think that's awesome. There is some amazing songwriting going on here, so sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Hey, hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a Podcast. Hey, hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a Podcast. Hey, hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a Podcast. Hey, hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a Podcast.
Ryan, Taylor, how's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for having us.
No problem. You know, before we started rolling, my producer told you what I'm about to tell the listeners right now. But, you know, Chris, he does not tell a story. He does not lie to me at all. Tell even a fib. He's that honest of a guy. But When Am I Gonna Lose You, the song we're talking about today, is in his top 10 favorite songs ever in his life. Wow. I think that's pretty cool.
That's incredible.
That is amazing.
I find it very hard to believe. I don't know. Maybe I should have more pride, but I'm like, no way.
Come on, Ryan.
Chris is an unabashed pop guy, and he's a sucker for falsetto.
Wow,
and,
there we go.
He loves harmonies, and you guys kind of have it all. This song was brought to my attention by Chris, and I dove in as I do and listened to it many times, and there's some great songwriting going on in this track. I can't wait to talk about it with you guys. I love new songs. My listeners know, been at this now. It'll be 4 years this June. An episode has come out every Monday. We're over like 200 of them, and I love hearing new songs that inspire. Thank you. That inspire me after all this time, and this is one of those tracks. Take us back to when you guys wrote it. This came off of your fourth studio album, Violet Street, which was released April 26th of 2019. So take us back. What's the inspiration for the track?
I'm so glad we're talking about When Am I Gonna Lose You. I could talk about this song forever. I think it might be my favorite song.
Okay.
Not of all time, but it might be my favorite Local Native song. We have like such a long path with this tune. I don't really know where to start, but I guess if we're going to start with the inspiration, I was literally just looking at the news, and, you know, we're in Los Angeles, so we're California based, and a chunk of the one highway that goes up to Big Sur just fell into the ocean, and it's like closed off. And this track really has a lot to do with Big Sur. It's set in Big Sur, and the story of When Am I Gonna Lose You is kind of the story of like me meeting my now wife and our path to that relationship, which, you know, wasn't like a super straight line. It was like kind of both of us had just come out of very long, like 6-year relationships right when we met. It's like a weird time to meet your like life partner.
Double rebound.
It was a big time double rebound. But we ended up like some of our first trips and dates were in Big Sur, and then actually like I heard the first final mix of this song driving up the one. We got married in Big Sur, and we'd finally finished this song, which we spent a very long time on as I was like driving up to my wedding that weekend.
Oh, wow. Did you demo the track?
No. So
Okay, I couldn't find a demo online for it, so I didn't know.
Violet Street, the album was kind of the first album we did not make demos for, and the only album. Didn't do it since. But we worked with producer Shawn Everett, who is an absolute like superstar mega genius. It was so fun working with Shawn. If you don't know about Shawn or his work, he's kind of like known for doing Brittany Howard. He just did her record and the Alabama Shakes, and he's worked with Julian Casablancas a lot. And he mixed Casey Musgraves, and just like his like credits are really amazing. But he's so creative, and it's the first time we just went into the studio and like kind of created everything. Like we had the idea for this song and we jammed on it, but we hadn't like made a fleshed out demo.
Okay. Well, you gave a lot of info on Shawn. He has won 6 Grammys and 4 Juno Awards. That's the Canadian equivalent of the Grammys. He's a Canadian music engineer, but now lives in LA. And you mentioned everybody on the list here, I think, except the Killers and War on Drugs. He's worked with a lot of people. How'd you get hooked up with Shawn?
Yeah, we did a couple sessions on the record before that one. Just he like kind of engineered and did some additional production on a couple tracks.
He did the drums on Dark Days, right?
Yeah, a couple songs on Sunlit Youth, the record before, and we just kind of like hit it off with him. We were like, God, this guy's like a mad scientist, like genius. Like he can take like a voice memo and all of a sudden there's like a fully built out wild track. Like he's just, yeah, he would take just our like meandering jams in his like warehouse studio and just like 2 hours later come back and like the most incredible thing had happened. So
I love that.
it was just really fun to work with him.
I love that mad scientist approach. And I always tell bands, don't knock a producer until you find the right one, or you find someone that does what you just explained. I mean, those are those things that if you open your mind to, it's like, I could have never done this if someone hadn't come along and said, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of this drum loop or this and that? Or in this case, they went in the other room and built it and then showed you and went, wow, that's awesome.
Totally. And he'll just have wild ideas that like, do you feel like, I mean, he's obviously very trained. Like, I think he's like studied, but like he just seems to have like zero rules. Like, you know, he'll throw like 20 decapitators like on a track. He'll like, I remember he taped like an AirPod headphone to the bass guitar to pick up like the clickiness of the string noise. Like he was just like to use as a microphone. Like he just has like all these ideas that you don't really.
Was that possibly used on this track? That trick?
Oh yeah, very possibly. Yeah.
Okay, well we'll get to that because I know where it's at, and I was wondering what on earth is that. So that is, I love.
There's another one that's tied to When Am I Gonna Lose You? That's a totally like insane thing I've never heard of, and he was like, I don't know if this has ever been done, and we ended up only using it at the very outro
for like a second and a half.
It ended up only being for the chaos outro moment of the song, but what we did was print out the track on tape, and like on actual, you know, reel tape, 2-inch tape, and then he and Matt did this project, and the engineer Ivan, for like a 5-day project. He cut out sections of the middle of the tape and then was like creating loops within the tape only on some of the sections of the tape. So the drum was skipping in this like very manual physical way to create the kind of like skipping wild element.
Oh, wow.
And we thought it was going to be the whole outro, but it sounded so cool, but it sounded so crazy. And so we could only put it at the end. We were like, man, that was 5 days of work for like a solid.
I'm sure. Yeah. Someone probably could have done it in Pro Tools very quickly.
But when you're an old school like tape nerd, you know, you're going to make the sound yourself. I'm not going to rely on the computer to make that sound. Totally. I love that. You know, I can't think of another song, and we're going to get there, but do you know what I'm talking about when I say I hear a creaky chair in this song? Like a creaky desk chair?
Yeah,
Okay, so at least you know you're not looking. You guys aren't looking at me like I'm absolutely out of my mind. When we'll get to that sound in a second.
Yeah.
Because the only thing I was thinking about that sound. The only thing I could think that even comes close, it's like the casket opening in Thriller, the Michael Jackson when they made the video. If you guys even remember that video, but that was the first thing that came to mind when I heard that. But I want to jump into this thing. We got a lot to cover here because I'm fascinated by some things in this song. I think there's some amazing songwriting here. But for the listeners, the band's first debut album came out in 2009, Gorilla Manor. They released the album Hummingbird in January of 2013. Sunlit Youth in September of 2016, and Violet Street came out April 26, 2019, which contains When Am I Gonna Lose You? And your most recent record, But I'll Wait For You, was just released, and we're going to talk about it at the end of this episode. But the track is 4 minutes and 24 seconds. It's song number 2 out of 10 on the album. The intro is 8 bars total of the verse progression for the first half, and that's just piano, seagulls in a cave, and what sounds like an old rocking chair. Creaking, and this whole part is very atmospheric. The back half brings a haunting synth part, piano, drums, and bass. What were those sounds? Were those synth sounds what I'm hearing? The seagulls in the chair?
The seagulls were just actual seagulls from YouTube.
Really?
We truly wanted to evoke the California coastline. We tried a bunch of things, like on guitar and live.
Yeah, I think I was like trying my pick sliding down and stuff. Like
I'm like a crazy, like reverbed out, channel. Yeah. And Ryder does that live, but he was like, we were like, how do we kind of like evoke this feeling? And he was like, seagulls. We pulled a YouTube video of seagulls and put it in.
Yeah, I think later on I'll turn the heat up to 95 and loop this part and pretend I'm out in Southern California. I love that though. I love that you went to YouTube and just like, we need some seagulls. And how did that come about though? In terms of, were you in the studio like, hey, we should put this? You had the music for the intro and you needed something more, or was that the idea from the top? We want to hear seagulls.
I'm gonna go to the end to give some context for a decision like this. This song we spent the most time on, and we exported, I want to say 57 versions of When Am I Gonna Lose You?
What?
And we actually did a project where we released them. We released all of them on our SoundCloud. So if you want to go through and hear version 1 through 57, you can. And sometimes there's huge changes.
Did you guys want to kill each other by the 40-second mix?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Taylor kept the faith. I feel like a lot of us had tapped out at that point. We were like, no, man, you're insane. But Taylor kept rolling. And
these weren't 12-inch electronica dance remixes we're talking about. These are this is another version of the song. Maybe the seagulls are up a little bit in this version. Or
I remember there was one where the chorus was the bridge and the verse was the chord. It just felt like all the pieces were just being moved around, and it's very weird.
Funny you should say that, Ryan. I think you foreshadowed a little bit till the end of the song, as we're going to talk about that very thing. Verse 1 comes right off the heels of the intro. Again, same chord progression follows us through here. So we've got drums, bass, and piano. They continue from the intro. And now we're talking this verse right up my alley. 3-part harmony. Now you got me hooked. This is it. When I heard this is okay, I can sink my teeth into this.
Wait, when am I gonna lose you? How will I let you slip through? Careless or unkind. Trace the curving of the coastline. Santa Lucia cliffside.
Wait, when am I going to lose you? How will I let you slip through? Careless or unkind. Trace the curving on the coastline. Santa Lucia cliffside. We'll stay here for the night.
I mean, I think something about songwriting that's really weird is that it's just being channeled through when it starts, it's not conscious. And so this song started literally with that chord and wait, when am I going to lose you? And that melody. That was the first thing, just literally out of the atmosphere, kind of out of nowhere, that came in. And so that was really like the anchor of where the song started.
I think the song could have started like that. Had you thought about that and not having the intro?
We did, yeah. We messed around with a bunch of intro aspects, and actually, when I started the song, it was like very slow, very quiet, a very mellow ballad. And I remember the first day, again, we did not demo. And I remember the first day we worked on the song as a band, we put it in the room and we kind of played it the way that it's played now with the kind of snares on the 2 and the 4 and this like driving beat. And I was freaking out.
Yeah, you were not psyched.
I was not psyched. It's not how I'd imagined.
Oh man, and that's
at all.
the worst, because you have such a love for this thing you created, and someone's going, "Hey, what about this?" and the whole room's jumping around except for you.
Totally. Yeah, it took me a few weeks to get on board, but it also felt great. So I think it maybe just took me a few days to kind of be like, all right, this is not what I thought, but this is rad. And that was the spirit of making this record. So I think like we didn't think about just starting on the vocal because the vibe felt so good from the band in the room that we kind of wanted to like introduce the feel of the song before the singing started.
And now that I think about it, it's a 3-part harmony. Maybe if it was just your voice, you could have got away with it. It might have been a little weird with the 3-part harmony. I think the intro is awesome. That 3-part harmony, the lead vocal is right up the center. The low harmony is panned slight left, and the high harmony is panned pretty hard off to the right. On the line, careless or unkind, right after that, panned off to the left, we get one like violin bow. I'm sure that's a synth, but it sounds like a little violin bow that happens there. Talk about that. Those little flourishes, were they done after the fact, like overdubs, or was that something you guys heard right then? Like, hey, we got to have something panned off to the left here.
I would give a lot of credit to Shawn for a lot of those little moments. There'll be like a moment where we're all sitting in the control room and maybe just some random, almost like accidental, like tail of a reverb or something happens, and he'll a lot of times just grab those. And there's like a lot of like accidental, amazing things that just kind of like end up when you're working with Shawn. I mean, I know Nick, our bassist, he also is really good at that. Like he'll just like find random like bleeps and bloops and find pockets for them. But Shawn was, yeah, you just never really knew what was going to happen. Like kind of when you were listening back with Shawn, like some like new little thing would crop up.
I've heard about bands that run samples and sounds and loops and different things. And a lot of times their producer will have a loop running throughout this whole verse. And they'll hear it at different times at the control room. And later on, they'll be like, where's that loop? And he only used a piece, like that little violin bow I'm calling about. He just used that. And that's all that he's hearing at that point, And it's really interesting how the producer's mind works sometimes.
That's something that we did learn with Shawn, I think originally on that Sunlit Youth run we did with him. Like that was something that happened on another track. We have Coins that Shawn worked on.
How much is enough? How can you be sure?
And we did that all the time where we would pull up a synth and we would just hit go. And then, one of us, say I'm like jamming the entire song on the synth, just kind of like freestyling and feeling it. And then we go through and you look for the diamond in the rough and literally what you're saying. And I think that example in that verse is one of those. We probably played the entire track and played that synth all over the track. And we're like, nope, here's like the one spot in the entire song that this part.
He did some cool stuff where he would always like run a vocal or something through an MS-20, and it would just take the weirdest, like it would make the pitch jump in strange ways and it would sound like really like mutated, but you would get like these one or two random moments that just felt really cool, and he would just kind of like layer it under the vocal.
Yeah, well, I mean, this song goes between two chords and four chords, really, and it's all the instrumentation between it. So it doesn't, if you were to try to play this just acoustic, alone by yourself, it might be pretty hard because there's a lot of dynamics, a lot of things floating in and out of here. The second half of verse 1 sounds like a synthesizer comes in along with that piano. We also have a sparkly arpeggiated guitar panned off to the left and another guitar panned off right. Is that a synth I'm hearing off right, or is that a guitar in the verse 1?
The curving of the coastline, Santa Lucia cliffside. We're staying here for the
Well, halfway through, there's a guitar line, like you're saying, the arpeggiating line that
Yep.
comes in. I'm trying to think of if there's another. Oh, I think a Rhodes is another layer that's coming in and out.
That's
So-
probably
Yeah.
what I'm hearing to the right. It sounds like
probably that.
almost a guitar through a Leslie or a Rhodes or something. Okay.
Yeah.
One thing to just mention, if you are deep diving on this thing, it's amazing.
I don't mess around, man. I don't mess around.
I love it.
One thing that happened is the piano track, like the heavy, natural piano that's in there, that was a late addition to this song. And it really it ends up kind of being the lead instrument and the glue.
I was going to say it's like the anchor.
And that's really unlocked the song. We were like, there was something about it. It felt like it was missing an anchor. Like the vibe was really good, but it was missing a little emotionality and an anchor. And that piano track came in pretty late in the game. And I think it really elevated the song so much and became basically the musical identity for the track.
Yeah, I'm smiling ear to ear because I can't imagine the song not having the piano. To me, it's the basis that what the song was built around, and I guess I'm completely wrong with what you just said. That's very trippy. Pre-chorus 1, right off of verse 1.
I remember you said everything has its place. Now I lie in our bed, wondering how to explain.
Talk about simplicity. It's just the two chords, E to B here. On every line it changes. The E piano chord on I remember you said. Everything has its place to the B. Now we'll lie in our bed to the E and wondering how to explain. What's happening here lyrically?
Lyrically, this part is going, to this place emotionally of falling in love with this person, but being in a place in life where you don't sort of feel like you want to commit to it and you want to dive in, but you're a little bit holding back. And, again, for me, I think it was just sort of the time and place for us. We were kind of being swept up in our relationship. But yeah, the context was just that we were in such a new kind of vulnerable place, when we met.
I call it the honeymoon phase. Everything's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, a question about that. So, you get up to this part of the song and the 3-part harmony's gone. It's just your vocal. And it's interesting. A lot of times the verse would just be one vocal, and it's kind of backwards here. And I really, really think that that's cool. I'll say it again. I love the simplicity of this part. There's a side stick snare. It almost sounds robotic, like a drum machine. Is that what you were talking about earlier?
There's a drum machine that goes under the entire track that we put on, that we then the whole band played the song live to when we set down
Cool.
the bass tracks for this.
Cool.
And so that was something kind of just like you were saying before, that's at this really low level, just under the whole track. And so what you're hearing is then that very quiet drum machine. And then it's what our drummer Matt is kind of doing very simply over the top of it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. Well, this part is super distant. The vocals break down again to one voice, which makes this part just sounds really personal. Right after the line, now we'll lie in our bed, we get it sounds like a digital snare flutter.
Wondering how to explain.
It's a real snare flutter, but it's just probably, as Ryan was saying, there are probably so many compressors stacked on top of each other.
And verbs or delays or something.
Yeah.
Okay, I love it. I thought it was digital, but that's really cool that it's a real snare. And right after the line, wondering how to explain, the snare fill leads us into chorus 1. And I got to ask you, Taylor, did you write the lyrics to this song yourself, or was there input from the band?
we're very collaborative on lyrics, but Ryan here, my buddy, who, by the way, I don't know if you know this, we met when we were 12 and picked up guitars when we were 13. So we've been doing this really like our whole lives.
I think you've known Kelsey, your keyboardist and guitarist, as well since that age.
We met him when we were like 16, I think, in high school. Yeah, so
Awesome.
just
Awesome.
right after. And Ryan is just an amazing lyricist and always helps me so much with the lyrics of my songs. So this is like a song I brought to the table, but Ryan contributed a lot to this song lyrically.
Okay, I didn't know if as a lyricist, and it's okay to say this or be any way. We're all different as musicians, and geez, I found that out on this show. But it's okay to be protective. This is about me and my wife. No one's touching this, and it sounds like that you're open. Again, I'm always open. I've never written anything in my life that I felt was complete. And if I did think it was complete, I learned a lesson real quick when I emailed it to the rest of the band. It's like, oh, wow. But 9.999 times out of 10, the song always elevates because of my bandmates. And I love that you're open to that.
Well, Chris, even though we've been doing this forever, I can still be quite protective. And with this song, when we started, I was very protective. And I was like, this is my song.
It was a battle. It was a battle.
I may have struck a nerve, folks.
I wrote When Am I With You? I was like, this is my thing. It's such a personal song to me.
And that's okay.
Well, no, but through the process of this, then I was just, so I had like, elements. I had what the song was about to me. I had that, the seed of it, the chorus, but I was really struggling to finish the song. And then I resisted it, but Ryan just came in and he just made it so much better. So I agree 100% with what you're saying. It's just funny because sometimes it's hard not to want to be protective. But
there's also a thing of like, since we have known each other since we were 12, like I do feel like we've been in this band forever. We've shared so much life experience that I know Taylor's had this, experience meeting his girlfriend at the time and the anxiety of being like, yeah, something's going to happen and it's not going to work out. Like, I think that's a universal feeling to a certain degree. And I think you're able to like talk about it and then tap into that same place. Like I can write lyrics to a song that, is very personal to him because I think we share so much of our lives, basically.
Knowing each other that long and being in a band together, you guys have the utmost love, and I'm sure you want to kill each other too at times, which is fine. That happens. That definitely happens in bands. I love pre-chorus 1 because it's like a lull. It takes everything down, and then the chorus just lifts here. This is a hook. This it's such a hook. The lyric is you. When am I going to lose you? When am I going to lose you? When am I going to lose you? When am I gonna lose? The whole thing is in unison. It's falsetto. The whole band's in. Drums, bass, and piano is hitting all the downbeats on the one. Is that an acoustic guitar I'm hearing panned off left?
Sure is.
Okay, we got an acoustic guitar off left and another guitar noodling off to the right. Or is that a keyboard? I'm going to ask again.
The Rhodes cuts in halfway through the chorus with this really beautiful line that Kelsey wrote that I just love. It's like one of my favorite musical elements of the song.
It's funny you said halfway through the chorus, as I put, sounds really chorusy and affected. That part, which I'm gonna go with. That's the Rhodes there. You had mentioned a little bit earlier about putting, I think, something on the bass, and I'm hearing what sounds like a heartbeat guitar ghosting the bass panned off to the left. Is that what I'm hearing? It's one of the most unique sounds I've ever heard.
Yeah, I honestly don't remember exactly what ended up, but there's so many, the way he treats like bass guitar, like there's a lot of low end, but yet somehow there's like frequencies you don't expect to hear on a bass, like this like high clicky It's really amazing.
It's almost like he took the bass track, reran it on another
Yeah,
track, and just pegged the treble on it and opened it up. And
yeah,
it's odd. You could hear it almost sounds like the attack of the pick. It's one of the coolest
yeah.
sounds. I absolutely love that. And this falsetto, there's no harmonies here. Okay, we had harmonies in the verse. Usually the chorus is when the big harmonies come, but we get this this falsetto. And I'm going to ask you at this point, you know, when I'm listening to the track, before I even went to Wikipedia to find out where you guys were from, you know, this sounded inherently Euro or Brit pop to me. Has other people said that to you?
No, I haven't heard that.
No, I was really
That's cool.
surprised you were.
I love that.
Yeah, I was, and it wasn't so much from the accents of the voice. I don't hear like a faux British accent, but it was the music. I was a little surprised to hear that. But you know, falsetto can be so powerful if used correctly. I've said that many times. And was this part in the chorus ever any different? It's like, no, this is the part, and it's going to be falsetto in unison.
The callback part was I also wrote the melody for that at the original first sitting when I sat down and the song came out of thin air. Like there was like the verse melody and then that chorus, but not the you part that like starts, only the part at the end. And so we tried a lot of things in that first part. That was like one of the experiments where we just kept trying different melodies.
Like the call and response, basically. We didn't really have that.
Yeah, the response was always there, but that front half, the call, was not. And the call just came one of the times in the studio. You know, like, I also would just want to give more atmosphere. Shawn's working cadence, you meet at noon and you go to about 3 a.m. every day. It's very intense.
Oh gosh!
So I kind of remember laying this track down and just like going for it and going wild. And it was like we were out of our minds, and it was 1 a.m. and we were looking for it, and there was just excitement, you know, in the room.
Oh, that's awesome.
And sometimes when you have that, it's just like, okay, cool. Like you can overthink a song to death and be like, what's the perfect thing here? And then sometimes you just have to be like, what was the feeling that I had when we heard this? So exciting.
Well, and a lot of times that's scary at 1 a.m. when you've been working for 12 hours. You got to come in the next day and say, are we still going to high five for this part? You know, that's happened before too, where you're so burnt. You think sometimes you settle. It doesn't sound like you guys settled here. Right out of chorus 1, we get a 2-bar turnaround. Everything, all the instruments are ringing out over the drums, and there's this cool guitar lick and a little keyboard run that takes us into verse 2. And again, everything here is harmonized. It's so awesome, this part. I love the way that it's mixed, where the vocals sit. It's absolutely brilliant.
Take another one if you need it, or do you already feel it? I felt it from the start. The silhouette of your dancing, the shadow play that we're casting on the cabin walls. You were floating.
Take another one if you need it, or do you already feel it? I felt it from the start. Engrave the silhouette of you dancing, a shadow play that we're casting on the cabin walls. Where's this cabin? I want to go.
This cabin is in Big Sur. There's a place up there called Deachin's, which I think was built in the mid 1800s. Like it really looks like a land of like fairies and elves. It's really crazy. And it's set among, you know, just giant redwood trees, like some of the biggest trees in the world, like with the ocean and cliffs on the side. It's just the most like incredible landscape. And it's where my now wife and I stayed the first time that we went up to Big Sur together.
You know, sometimes I'll read a lyric, and sometimes lyrics are very literal. And there's a number of parts in here that are literal, but I don't feel like it's, how am I trying to say this? I don't feel like it's just, yeah, hey, I went to the store and I went and I did this. There's still something, and as you're telling me, yeah, it's about a cabin, but I don't know what about the cabin. And now that you're setting up, you can get that. I don't know if any of that made sense, but I just said a lot of times lyrics are literal. It's like, okay, this is a boy loves girl. I can follow the story, and here I kind of assume that, but I didn't know, and I assume a lot about lyrics. That's the one thing I'm usually wrong about on this on this show, and I kind of thought this was a love song of some nature, but I didn't know the exact nature of it. Drums, bass, and a guitar panned off left that is loosely playing the bass guitar part. This verse 2 really builds. That guitar is back here building off that bass part, and a guitar starts creeping in on the second line, or do you already feel it? And that guitar kind of crescendos. Now it kind of swirls around to the right, and it's like this little two-noter that happens 3 times. It's the only time in the song you hear what I'm going to call, this guitar sounds like a surf rock guitar vibe off to the right.
From the start,
It's like that Dick Dale or something, or is that your Southern California root shining there, or what?
I was trying to get more surf rock in there. I think so many of the elements, like up to this point to this song, I think we'd been a little bit allergic to being like having too much like maybe quote unquote classic rock, like maybe a straight drum beat, that straight kind of Fleetwood Mac bass groove. And I think there was to a degree us trying to offset some of that in this song. But yeah, I don't know, always just trying to just embrace the song like for what it is, but then just have like some little like kind of balancing elements.
Hey everybody, don't go anywhere. We got lots more coming up with Taylor Rice and Ryan Hahn after a few words from our sponsors.
Looking to elevate your music career? DistroKid is a digital music distribution service that enables musicians to distribute their music to online stores and streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon, Tidal, and many more. DistroKid collects earnings and payments, sending them to you, the artist. With DistroKid, artists unlock a world of possibilities. From easily paying collaborators with splits to securing your music with DistroLock, DistroKid covers all bases. Plus, you can promote your releases with Hyperfollow and create eye-catching visuals with the Spotify Canvas generator, all for free. But that's not all. Introducing the DistroKid app, now available on iOS and Android. Artists can manage their releases, view streaming stats, and withdraw earnings, all from the palm of their hand. And for those looking to perfect their sound, check out Mixia. With its simple interface and customizable mastering options, artists can make their music sound polished and professional within minutes. And don't forget about Instant Share, DistroKid's newest feature. Share large files securely with collaborators, producers, and more, ensuring your music streams at the highest quality. Ready to take your music to the next level? Download the DistroKid app and explore their suite of tools today. Plus, listeners can enjoy 30% off their first year by visiting distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes. That's distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes.
One Hit Thunder is a podcast where we both celebrate and have a good laugh about bands and artists that had just one hit that we all know. Each week, we're joined by a guest from the world of music or comedy to learn more than you ever thought you would about some songs that you can't forget. And we decide if they brought the one-hit thunder or were nothing more than a one-hit blunder. Look, if you listen to the show, you're probably going to laugh, and I guarantee you're going to crush next time the bar has music trivia. Tag Team, Jane Child, Meredith Brooks, Looking Glass, Sean Mullins, Eiffel 65, EMF, Crash Test Dummies, Crazy Town, Chumbawamba. We have hundreds of episodes in our back catalog and a new episode each week, so pass the Dutchie, make sure you're connected, and subscribe to One Hit Thunder wherever you get your pods.
You can see it on my face. In the morning we can find out.
And now, back to the show.
And this part with the piano notes hitting those changes, are you saying, Taylor, that wasn't there before?
That was not there. It was just guitar and bass.
The shadow play that we're casting on the cabin wall.
when was the aha 11th hour moment with the piano? Do you remember?
I mean, we'd have to go through the 57 exports and I think we could see the literal date, but it was like 85% through the process of making the song. I mean, it was like very late.
I think next year we do all 57 mixes every Monday. We'll just go through. We'll start and we'll have over a year episodes with just you guys. I can't believe you did 57 mixes. I'm just like, what?
You know, nobody could believe it except for Shawn and I. Nobody in the band could believe it either. So
no one should do 57 mixes. Yeah.
You hear stuff like, yeah, Bob Rock gave, Metallica 50 mixes of Enter Sandman. You're like, no, he didn't. It's like, well, maybe he did. I'm not not too sure. Pre-chorus 2, we got new lyrics here for pre-chorus 2. Talk about that. Did you feel you wanted some more information here and not keep it the same?
Yeah, it's such a simple part. Like kind of as you're saying, it really breaks down to this very quiet, intimate moment before it kind of explodes to the chorus. And it just felt like it needed a little bit of a shift. And we do a couple other like small musical shifts as well. But I just felt lyrically the story kind of had to keep moving.
You were floating to me in a slow motion fade. Could I finally see between belief and faith?
You were floating to me in a slow motion fade. I could finally see between belief and faith.
This lyric is a lot less kind of like putting the story forward or like concrete actions or anything. And it was really like the emotion and the feeling of it. And like how this new relationship and this person was like occupying, my spirit and my psyche, like what it feels like being kind of in the thralls of that experience.
What a great feeling to have that belief and faith. Because I've lost it before. You have a bad breakup or, any other relationship in life. And it's nice to have that belief and faith restored. Right off of pre-chorus 2, we get into chorus 2, and there's a new high synthesizer part that comes in on all of the you lines. It mimics just that here. And talk about, again, a song building. That's not that big of a deal. And here I am. I get so excited about things like this. That synthesizer coming in here, I'm like, I listened to it probably 2 or 3 times. Like, why does this sound different? Now I got to rewind to chorus. So I'm like, oh, the high synth isn't there. I think it's really cool.
I love that synth so much.
I saw you smiling when I said it. I was like,
we're laughing about it because live we don't play with tracks. So for a long time, I basically had to like play guitar, and then while I was singing, playing guitar, reach over and play that synth line. And I was always griping about it to these guys. I'm like, I just want to play guitar. I don't want to have to like do both while I'm singing.
I was like, Ryan, you have to play that synth live.
And I'm like, it's not that important.
There's always one overachiever in the band, and that's you, Ryan. I love it. I love
Apparently.
it.
I remember Shawn always saying it feels so elegant, like white gloves playing this little synth, and he was always so funny about it.
No, the part is great, and as I said, I had to listen to it a bunch, going, why is this chorus different? I also swear that the acoustic guitar pan off left is louder in the mix here, and that ghosting guitar or whatever I'm hearing on that bass is louder as well. On the second time it says you, actually the third time, it's the second time when it says when am I gonna lose you. There's an arpeggiated guitar pan off right, and this is louder as well from chorus 1, and there is a slight variation on chorus 2 on the third line. When am I going to lose you? You get 2 U's in a row right there. And was that just something you sang when you that time and it came out, or was that conscious?
That whole melody, like the call part of the chorus, was very much freestyled. Yeah, kind of in the moment as we were working on the song. Like I said, we had the when am I gonna lose part, but we didn't have the U's, and all those U's and how those melodies go and the arc of them was kind of like a freestyle in the
I
studio.
also love how like just blatantly, clearly, it's just you who. Like I think it's just
Yeah.
because it's so high, you have to say like you who. But like the
You
brain is just like you. I don't know. It's just it is funny if you're like you who.
I got a fridge full of Yoo-Hoo. My kids
I
drink
know.
the heck out of it. You guys should pitch
No
this
way,
to Yoo-Hoo and get
We
some money.
really
Yes.
missed an opportunity
I
for a
didn't know
brand.
Yoo-Hoo is still going.
Yeah, it is as disgusting as it ever was.
Yoo-Hoo,
Yes,
if
I'm
you're
just kidding. If you want to sponsor us, Yoo-Hoo, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys should pitch this for Yoo-Hoo. Yeah, that part is awesome. Right out of chorus 2, we get an 8-bar musical interlude to set up for the bridge, which is really kind of like the pre-chorus. I love the end of this song because we get stuff that's getting recycled and used for other parts. It's brilliant. That's the part of the why I said there's some amazing songwriting going on here. This musical interlude sets up for the bridge part, and it's really distant but blown out. The production here, again, it's really atmospheric. All that's going on is the root note E to B. Was this part created? What I mean by created, did you have the music full volume and out here, and then Shawn went ahead as a production trick and mixing made this part?
This part came together in such an insane, like, roundabout way. This whole bridge, which I just like love this bridge so much. There's so many parts about it that I love. So you're right. It is like the pre-chorus. That's like the basis of it. So
Yeah.
I think you kind of played it in the pre-chorus way. But then some of that like computery, kind of what you're saying, like hypnotized stuff, that was a recreation of the tape loop idea. So like we had done the
Cool.
tapes and cut it up, and it was cool, but it sounded really insane. But it gave the inspiration to kind of create what the vibe for this bridge was.
Yeah.
So that was like one of the elements of kind of how we arrived at the atmosphere of it.
Okay.
And there's a couple parts. There's like this underwater guitar lead line that's super underwater that at the very end kind of busts into more like a classic rock sounding guitar, but it does not sound like a guitar at all for the whole bridge.
I remember you closing the shutters and laying down by my side, and the light that was still slipping through was painting your body in stripes. I remember the trees tumbling down like an archangel choir, and the ocean was all we could see, and I knew that I wanted you. I remember you closing the shutters and laying down by my side, and the light that was still slipping through was painting your body in stripes. I remember the trees tumbling down like an archangel choir, and the ocean was all we could see, and I knew that I wanted you.
For this bridge, which is a lot like the pre-chorus, it's just E to B. There's a noodly guitar panned off right, along with a synth running off to the left. The bass is changing again, just E to B here. On the line and laying down by my side, the second line, a side stick snare comes in. It's not on the first line. It only comes in on the second and runs through the whole of this bridge part. I really love that. On the line, it was painting your body in stripes. There's a synth swell panned off to the left. The next line, there's guitar feedback that comes in, and it gets nasty at the end. You were just talking about that. It kind of has some flanger on it, and really lifts us in to what I'm calling the fake out part. Okay, this is still the bridge, but it's now the chorus progression. So you feel like you're in the chorus, but you're not back in the chorus yet. This really is the moment where I went, okay, now I'm all in. I love this part. How'd that come about? Because you could have easily went right into the chorus again.
Yeah, this part, so
It's
melodically,
genius.
we were like, we need a shift. We kept trying different things here, and we like could not get it. And then actually one of the original like thoughts of the vibe of the melody was a Shawn idea, like the kind of cadence. We were like jamming on it and he started kind of like chanting in that zone. And so that gave like the feel of the melody. And then I had the melody, but I could not get the lyric, and it was driving me so nuts. And this is kind of where I think I really broke. And Ryan wrote the lyrics to this bridge, and I think it's some of my favorite lyrics like ever that Local Natives has written. I think they're just so beautiful, and I just thank you so much, Ryan, for writing these lyrics.
I love these lyrics. The first time we hear them, it's just a single voice. It's just Taylor singing this part. Then we come out of it into what I'm calling the fake out. Now we're in the chorus progression, but we're going to repeat the bridge lyrics, which are awesome, but now we're going to harmonize them, which is even more awesome. And the full band's in. I'm going to read the lyric. It's the same for both times. I remember you closing the shutters and laying down by my side, and the light that was still slipping through. It was painting your body in stripes. I remember the trees summoned down like an archangel choir, and the ocean was all we could see, and I knew that I wanted you. So what'd you think about him writing that song, writing those lyrics for your wife? I wanted you. Jeez.
Well, I will say that lyric, I got to give Shawn credit for that, because I love these lyrics too. I was so psyched, like how they came together, but I'm guilty of being maybe more metaphorical, a little bit more like opaque. And Shawn was like, that last lyric needs to be so direct. It needs to be like stupidly direct. He's like, you just need to come out and say it. So that's like, everything's all like evocative, everything's metaphorical. And then all of a sudden the last line is just, I knew that I wanted you. And then I'd give Shawn credit for that for sure.
I love it. Well, the whole band is in here. It feels like a chorus because the whole band switches to the chorus progression, but repeats the bridge lyrics, this time with harmonies. Great songwriting, I wrote here. A guitar lick and a synth are also mimicking the lead vocal the whole way through this part, which is killer. We get right into chorus 3. I love chorus 3 because we get yet another fake out. We don't get the you at the top. We get 2 bars of just the music. We don't get the you there. I wrote for probably the 5th time. Again, great songwriting. It's so cool. When am I going to lose? We don't get a you there either after this time. It's naked again. Then when am I going to lose you? When am I going to lose you? We get 2 there like the second chorus. And then when am I going to lose? On the last line, I wrote here, the kitchen sink is in. Those arpeggios panned off to the right are super loud. The harmonies are louder here. And I'm hearing a strumming. It sounds menacing, almost like it's pitch shifted. It sounds like a baritone guitar panned off to the left. Is that a baritone?
I think it probably was.
Yeah, it sounds like it's almost warbly and out of tune.
It's
like
thick. We had like it was running through a lot of the rack gear. Like a lot of the guitars are DI. And he has all this like rack gear that we run it through. So it was, Ryan, you remember the name of it, with the digital like keypad. Like,
the Eventide?
Eventide.
Oh, Eventide.
We
Okay.
use that a lot. I'm pretty sure this was through the Eventide. So it has like phase on it. And yeah,
it sounds like a baritone, and it sounds like it's just on the cusp
of texture on it. It's so cool.
It sounds like if it was a little louder in the mix, you'd swear it was out of tune. It's got that just on the edge. It's teetering.
Yeah.
It's such a cool tension. And then we get an outro, a 4-bar little coda here at the end. Again, it's the blown out production. I call it, like the bridge musical interlude. On the fade out, I hear my office chair. Can we hear that? I hear, and like it sounds like a chair creaking or like a I don't know, some Tales from the Crypt, like something trying to scare you. That's in the center, and the very last thing we hear in the song, it's like fingers across the strings of a guitar, panned off left like a swoop, and that's the end of the track. For a song that, you know, a lot of times on this show we'll hear, oh, this song came about very quickly. It's a band's biggest song. It sounds like you guys put a lot of work into this one. A lot of times when you do that, you can overcook an idea. Doesn't sound like that happened here. It's arguably one of your most popular songs. Congratulations.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Yeah. No, we love, I mean, this song is so great because it has all the elements of like, it was played in a room, so it feels really good, just even at its basic elements. All the production was really fun. We got to push ourselves in experimental ways. I think like it works great acoustic. I love playing it live at shows. Like the energy is there. I even think like the lyric that Taylor had, the "When am I gonna lose you?" It's almost like this skewed version. Like you would almost expect it to be like, I don't want to lose you, you know, but this like, we often joke that maybe it probably would have been a bigger song had it said that, but like, there's just enough about the song to like, that it's skewed, that it's a pop song, but it's like kind of weird and just like flips it a little bit. And I think that's really cool.
Thanks for saying that, Ryan. I hadn't thought about that. It is pretty self-deprecating. When am I going to lose? You're kind of setting yourself up for failure. When am I going to lose you?
Yeah.
I want to thank you guys for taking the time. I know you're busy. You got stuff going on today. Before we break, let's talk about But I'll Wait For You, your brand new album that was just released. Tell everybody about it, please.
Yeah, it's a companion album. It's just like basically a sister album to this album we put out last year called Time Will Wait For No One. And it's just this second half of this large body of work. We kind of like recorded it all like in one big recording session, and it's this kind of, that whole phrase, the two phrases, "Time will wait for no one, but I'll wait for you," was almost this like mantra for our band. You know, we've all known each other since we were kids, and obviously the pandemic was a weird time of no touring. It was our longest break we'd ever taken from each other, and so a lot of the record was us coming back together, kind of reconnecting, figuring out like, you know, do we still know how to do this? Like, what are our relationships? And it was just us working through a lot of stuff. And I think this second half of the album, I think or second half of this body of work really speaks to that. And yeah, we're just like really excited to finally get to share all these songs.
Awesome. Well, best of luck to you guys. Thanks for sitting in. This song is a monster. I absolutely love it. And I look forward to hearing some more stuff from you.
Thanks so much, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, really appreciate it.
Still time lights out on the way home. If you didn't know how I felt, April, now you know.
Hey everybody, the song you're hearing right now is April from the new Local Natives album, But I'll Wait For You. This is one of my favorite bands in the world, so you gotta go check this album out. It is incredible. But don't go anywhere. We got lots more Chris DeMakes a Podcast coming right up after a few words from our sponsors.
Hey there, I am Johnny Christ from Avenged Sevenfold, and I've got a podcast called Drinks with Johnny you're going to want to check out. I sit down with a bunch of different people from all different walks of life, from professional wrestlers to actors, comedians, fighters, musicians, everything in between. I'm just looking to make some friends and have a good time doing it. So if that sounds like something you're into, go check out Drinks with Johnny, streaming everywhere now.
Hey, Chris DeMakes a Podcast producer Chris Fafalius here. You may have heard me talk about my band Punchline before. Maybe you already know us, or maybe you're hearing about us for the first time right now. It doesn't matter. No matter what your relationship with Punchline is, I will absolutely guarantee that you'll love our new podcast, A Band Called Punchline. Starting with our humble beginnings in a small town in southwestern Pennsylvania in 1997, we're telling the hilarious, strange, and hopefully inspiring story of the 25 plus years of our band in the most honest way possible, podcast style. A Band Called Punchline is an audio documentary available now wherever you get your pods. So subscribe and let me and my friends share a wild, entertaining, unique, and wonderful tale of music and perseverance unlike any other that's still being written today.
As we near the end of the show, here's a band you might not know.
Welcome to this week's Band You Might Not Know. If you'd like your band to be considered for Chris DeMakes a Podcast, email your best song via MP3 only and a short bio to bandyoumightnotknow@gmail.com. This week's featured artist is Insane Habits, a punk rock trio from Vienna, Austria, consisting of Stefan on guitar and lead vocals, Mark on bass and backing vocals, and Thomas on drums and backing vocals. You can find their music on Spotify and Bandcamp. Here's a snippet of their song, For No Reason.
The Wrap with Chris and Chris.
So, Chris, you know I was obviously excited for this episode. I told you beforehand, you even let them know. I let them know. This is one of my favorite songs ever written. That is no exaggeration, and it is pretty impressive that a song that's only about 5 years old from when we're recording this made its way into my top 10, I would say, songs ever.
That's really cool. Something you and I didn't discuss, Chris. Did you feel this had an air of Britpop to it?
The Britpop thing, I didn't so much hear. The Southern California thing, yeah, maybe I hear that a little bit. But
Interesting.
You're right. I'm a sucker for a great pop hook. And the combination of the melodies and just the production of the song and the emotion behind it, the delivery and just even those parts, like you said, Chris, those pre-choruses where it gets real personal. And then I guess I'm also a sucker for a great falsetto. This song just has everything I love. I just feel like it's a perfect song.
Yeah, and the bed tracks, as I said to the guys, that it's really simple. The chord progressions, it goes from like 2 chords to 4 chords, but it's the instrumentation between all the sounds and all the layers, and just, they start the verse off with a 3-part harmony that's just so catchy and so awesome, breaks down to a pre-chorus part that's just one vocal, then comes back in for the chorus, and all the vocals are unison. I mean, just that alone makes this very unique.
That's very interesting. The verse in 3-part harmony, the pre-chorus as a solo vocal, and then the chorus in unison. I can't think of another song off the top of my head that does that. I mean, maybe there's a Beach Boys song out there that does that or something. I thought it was really interesting, Chris, that when they talked about the producer, Shawn, how they would set up and they said they would sort of jam, and then Shawn would recognize things or pick things out that they were recording in the jams and sometimes help put the songs together, especially when it comes to those little flourishes that happen throughout the song. And oh man, do those help build the song.
They do. I've always said the best producers, Rob Cavallo was like this, Howard Benson was like this, and I would sometimes doubt them. I'd say, man, we haven't talked about that guitar lead. We talked about it at lunch last week. We've had a whole 6 days of recording since then, and then I'll kind of forget about it. It'll be 2 days after the fact, and they'll be like, hey, what happened to that guitar part? We're going to do that for that. And like, what? And that just goes to show you the right producer, a great producer, is always eavesdropping. They're always listening and they're always organized, and they'll remember that guitar part.
Right, for sure. I also thought it was really cool and interesting to hear how open they are with each other to collaborating even lyrically as a band. But it's also funny that within this episode, when they're talking about this song, it seems like you struck a little bit of a nerve, because it seemed like at first that Taylor was really protective of this song because it was so personal to him. But then, when Ryan came, I was really interested to hear that Ryan wrote that bridge. Mm-hmm. Those lyrics in the bridge paint such a vivid picture of the way the shadow is hitting the person through the blinds in the song. It's just such a visual lyrical part, and it's beautiful. It's amazing. And I thought that was so interesting that Ryan wrote those lyrics, even though Taylor brought the main idea of the song to the band.
Yeah, that makes sense. You look at it on paper. These lyrics jump out. They're a little different than the rest of the prose that is happening within the verses. I'll tell you, I was trying to articulate this. I don't know if you completely understood it. I was trying to get across that, a lot of times my lyrics are very literal. It's like, oh, can I be a little bit more imaginative? Can I have a little bit more of a abstract story here? And these lyrics are pretty literal if you look at them, but they don't feel that way. It feels like there's a story here about the cabin that Taylor was going into and whatnot. And I thought that was really cool. The other thing is the lyric. I didn't even think about this till the end when Ryan was saying, when am I going to lose you? It's kind of like a self-deprecating lyric right off the top.
Dude, I think that's part of the reason I love this song so much too. It's like they're painting this picture of taking this trip with somebody that you love, and you're feeling all of these emotions and everything. But there's this sort of melancholy aspect to it where it's like you're experiencing all this beauty and you're in love, but it's like, when is this going to end? When am I going to, this is too good. When am I going to lose you? I just thought it was such a interesting perspective to write a song from. And from the first time I heard this, I think my buddy Steve sent me this song. That's the first time I ever heard this song. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This song's incredible.
And let's talk about something else, Chris. This song was belabored over. It was worked. It wasn't, hey, we wrote this in 2 minutes and here we are. They put a lot of time in this song, not just the band, but producer Shawn Everett. I mean, he would be Dr. Frankenstein in the other room putting these sounds together, and they'd have this huge sound palette of sounds, and they'd come back later. And it was just this one little thing in the verse that he used. I love that.
Sometimes we've seen that a song that's labored over too much, that's cooked too much, doesn't turn out to be a hit, a great song. That is not the case. And this would be an argument for really, really hone in on one song. 57 different versions of this song. I think that's the most versions I've ever heard of a song. I thought it was really cool too. They put them all out there on SoundCloud. I didn't know that.
I know. Like I said, that's our whole next year and 9 more episodes into 2026 if we break all those down. But what a great song. What amazing songwriting, as I said. There's a lot of, hey, let's take the chorus progression, but sing the bridge lyrics over it again. I think that is absolutely genius. And I don't know. I really glad you brought this song to my attention. It's very cool. I really enjoyed breaking it down.
Yeah, I love this one, man. This was a personal favorite episode, and I hope everyone out there enjoyed it. And if you enjoy Chris and I talking about music, or if you enjoy this podcast, you should check out DeMakes.com. You can subscribe to our supporting cast, and you can help us continue making this show that we love to make.
That was the segue. Man, you slid that right in there. I didn't even see it coming. You sneaky, sneaky little devil, you. Yeah. DeMakes.com. Head over there and support the podcast you know and love. Give me a follow on Instagram at Less Than Christy, and give my wonderful cohort here, Mr. Chris Fafalius, a follow as well at Chris Fafalius. And I want to thank this week's guest, local natives, Ryan Hahn and Taylor Rice, for sitting with us. And we'll see you next week.
Hey, what's up? My name's Lurk, and I'm the host of Lamb Goat's Van Flip podcast. Every week I have in-depth conversations with bands from all over the scene, big and small. We also like to keep our finger on the pulse and showcase up-and-coming bands on the show as well. So come check out Lamb Goat's Van Flip podcast.
Hey, this is Steve Choi, host of the Musicians Guild podcast, part of the Sound Talent Media podcast network. Within the four walls of the Musicians Guild, we'll be discussing the habits, idiosyncrasies, experiences, and general psychology of my friends and peers, all involved with music in various capacities. Listen and subscribe at soundtalentmedia.com.